be amazed how much better your trip will be. We are told to put God first in everything. That means vacation too. Sometimes we go with enough, we about have church ourselves. We got enough proof with it. Anyway, we're going to pick back up. We're still on Escape of Coming Night with Revelation. We're going to be in chapter 8. We kind of left off with a area. We'll kind of get into that in a minute. I've been doing a lot of studying, listening, digging, doing some things, and me and a couple of guys, I think you guys got to meet Brother Tim Williams, the dad, not the son. We talk a lot, and we have different views on different things. And Larry Rollins, I believe some of y'all got to meet him. He was here on Wednesday night, one night. I spoke, and he's got a lot of different views on different things. And we were sitting around talking, and this just kept coming to my mind. And I put this up here for a reason. What is that? You can tell what that is. Mount Rushmore. Okay. What do you see? What do you see up there? You see 4 presidents. What do you see, Deborah? What do you see?
It's supposed to be a city of gold.
Is it really? The Geico guy, I don't know about that little Geico man's up there in the eye, George Washington looking out. 4 men? We were discussing this, and actually somebody else done this to me and brought it to my attention. I thought it was really neat. He didn't use this, but I like this because this is where I want to go so bad on vacation. I can't stand it. I always want to go to Montana and South Dakota and that area up there. But that is Mount Rushmore. If you've got 5 people standing here looking at Mount Rushmore, all 5 people are probably going to see something different. You're going to have one guy who's going to sit here and go, that is so artistic. It's beautiful. The way they've done the intrinsic cuts and made the faces look like that. You'd have somebody look at it that way. You'd probably have somebody who was scientific look at it and go, you know, I wonder what kind of rock structure that is that they're using up there. Then you're going to have somebody over here that's offended because they've defaced the Native American lands, and you've got all these different things, and that's how we do the Bible. We have so many different views. That's why we have so many different denominations and so many different views, even within our own denomination, even within our own church, we have different views. In fact, how many's read that verse? Shortest verse in the Bible. Jesus wept. Shortest verse in the Bible. I was pulling it up and just looking at all the different commentators, preachers, different people who looked at this verse, and everybody had a different perspective on what Jesus wept meant. Some said that he cried because he loved Lazarus, and Lazarus had died. And I can go with that. And he had some that, I think there's a song that somebody sings. He didn't cry because Lazarus had died. He cried because he had to bring him back. You know, and he was already through with all the troubles and trials of the world. You know, and there are so many different views. He cried because of the disbelief of the people standing there. And the Bible speaks to people differently. The Bible, me and Brother James and Brother Eric and Brother Ben could all read the same chapter, and God would speak to us in a different way. Something would speak to my heart different than it would speak to him. And one reason why, you know, me and Preacher Eric's talked about listening to other preachers and things, you know, as long as they're in the Word of God, that's all I say, you know. Because people like when Brother Heath preached the other week, you know, he brought out some things I'd never even looked at, things that God had spoke to him about. And so that's why we have so many different denominations, so many different looks. The thing is, and what I'm trying to get across is, you need to study. You need to get in the Word. I mean, you've got all these different views. You got the pre-trib, the mid-trib, the post-trib. You got the premillennial, amillennial versus post-millennial. You got covenant theology versus dispensationalism. You've got Calvinism versus Arminianism. You've got all these different views. Get in the Word yourself. Get in the Word and study. See what God gives you. We come to church on Sunday morning and Sunday school and Sunday night and Wednesday night, and a lot of times that's the only Bible we get. Because we take what other people give us instead of taking what God can give us and what the Holy Spirit gives us. And so whether we agree with what one person teaches or another person teaches, that's irrelevant. Get in the Word yourself. Amen. As long as the Bible, as long as you believe, and this is just Marty's speaking. If you believe that Jesus Christ was born of a virgin, that He walked 33 years on this life, on this earth, perfect, never sinned. He took my sins on His cross and died, was laid in a grave and rose 3 days later, spent 40 days on this earth, ascended to heaven and said, I'm coming back to get you. You on the right path.
Yeah. Amen.
This other stuff we can argue and debate and go about, and that's all good, but let's keep the gospel going. That's what's important. Let's preach the gospel.
Amen.
He didn't say, go ye into all the world and teach dispensationalism. He said, go ye into all the world and teach the gospel. Baptizing them. Get in the Bible. Study the Bible. Learn the Bible. I can stand up here till I'm blue in the face and try to tell you something. Preacher Eric can get up here and tell you something until he's blue in the face. Eddie, James, anybody can get up here and talk to you. We can't do what the Holy Spirit can do. Get in the Word. Don't take what I teach in Sunday school as law. Because let me tell you something. Let me tell you something that every one of those views have in common. Every one of them is wrong somewhere. If you know somebody that knows everything about the Bible, you need to tell them start back in Genesis and start over again. Because nobody knows it all but Him. And so we all miss the mark somewhere along the line. So don't take my word for anything that I say. Get in the Word. Study the Word. Go home and look at those verses I said. Let the Holy Spirit teach you. Don't let Marty. Let the Holy Spirit teach you. We left off with chapter 7. We're in Revelation chapter 8 now. We're actually going to go through the whole chapter this morning. So maybe get you reading ears on. And we'll kind of go from there. Let's just go ahead and read it. Oh, wait a minute, before you do, let's back up. What has, according to what we've been teaching, what has happened so far? What has taken place so far in what we've studied through Revelation? One, I believe the church has been raptured. I believe the church is gone. People of the church are already in heaven. I believe that there's 144,000 witnesses of the 12 tribes of Israel that are preaching, that are going across the entire earth preaching. I keep looking back, I forget it's up here. Most of those that are being saved, those that are being converted during the tribulation, are dying as martyrs. We've seen that where they've been around the throne in heaven and doing this. The seals, we've been through the 6 seals so far. The seals are being opened. Judgment is coming on the earth. We stopped, and then we went into what we call a parenthetical, parentheses per se. Do I believe it happened, the seals, and then this happened? Did this happen while this was going on? Because one's taking place in heaven, one's taking place in earth. We read that where John seen 2 different visions. One was in heaven, one was in earth. Are they taking place at the same time? We don't know. We know it was somewhere around the same time. You got to remember again, there was no chapters in the Bible when it was read, so we got to read this as a letter from John. So it's not really separated; it's just all read together. So he's seen these witnesses. He explained to us who these witnesses were that were walking on the earth. He talked about these people that were in heaven around the throne that were teaching. So we've seen both sides of the spectrum. And now we come back to Revelation 8, the 7th seal. And we're going to look at, just to let you know, everything that happens from here on is still under the 7th seal. When he opens the 7th seal, there's where the 7 trumpets are at. When he opens the 7th trumpet, that's where the 7 bowls are at. It's all under the 7th trumpet. So, or the seventh seal, sorry. So Eddie, go ahead, let's read 8. Just go ahead and read the whole thing, 8, 1 through 13.
And when he had opened the seventh seal, there was silence in heaven about the space of half an hour. And I saw the 7 angels which stood before God, and to them were given 7 trumpets. And another angel came and stood at the altar, having a golden censer. And there was given unto him much incense, that he should offer it with the prayers of the saints upon the golden altar which was before the throne. And the smoke of the incense which came with the prayers of the saints ascended up before God out of the angel's hand. And the angel took the censer and filled it with fire of the altar and cast it into the earth. And there were voices and thunderings and lightnings and an earthquake. And the 7 angels which had the 7 trumpets prepared themselves to sound. The first angel sounded, and there followed hail and fire mingled with blood. And they were cast upon the earth, and the third part of the trees was burnt up, and all green grass was burnt up. And the second angel sounded, and as it were a great mountain burning with fire was cast into the sea. And the third part of the sea became blood. And the third part of the creatures which were in the sea and had life died, and a third part of the ships were destroyed. And a third angel sounded, and there fell a great star from heaven, burning as it were a lamp, and it fell upon the third part of the rivers, and upon the fountains of the waters. And the name of the star is called Wormwood. And the third part of the waters became wormwood, and many men died of the waters, because they were made bitter. And the fourth angel sounded, and a third part of the sun was smitten, and a third part of the moon, and a third part of the stars, so as the third part of them was darkened, and the day shone not for a third part of it, and the night likewise. And I beheld, and heard an angel flying through the midst of heaven, saying with a loud voice, Woe, 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 to the inhabitants of the earth, by reason of other voices of the trumpets of the 3 angels, which are yet to sound.
That wasn't like riding a horse. Whoa, whoa. That's a different whoa. That's a different whoa. So the 7th seal. When we go through this, again, I want to reiterate, these seals were not in one big scroll. These were 7 different scrolls, I believe, with 7 different seals that he opened. And he would open one seal, he would read what the judgment was. On the 7th seal, we go through and this is one of those places where I don't know that I agree or disagree with David Jeremiah on it. Again, we're not always going to agree with everything. And some things David Jeremiah teaches, I kind of lean in a different way with. The silent pause. When he had opened the 7th seal, there was silence in heaven about the space of half an hour. Who knows what that means? There is a lot of different views of it. David Jeremiah speaks of all the noise that was going on in heaven when you were looking back here at the different places, the creatures around the throne, and all the saints were praising, and all this stuff going on. I'm not sure that the silence that it's talking about, because when you look into Greek, which I did, the word heaven could mean the skies. There could be heaven in the skies. And to me, if I'm in heaven, and I'm around the throne praising God, I don't want nobody doing my family down on earth. I wouldn't, to me that wouldn't be heaven. People talked about, can your loved one see you on earth? You wouldn't want your loved one to see you on earth. You would want your loved one to know the pain and stuff that we're going through here. They would be with God. And so I don't know if that's what it is. I think it's just a prequel to what's getting ready to come. I think he is stopping everything. All this stuff has been going on. All these seals that have been broken, there is chaos going on. And I think he says, peace for just a minute. It's fixing to get bad. You thought what came before was bad. Wait till now. And again, no matter how you believe this, what I want you to get out of this is the absolute importance of us getting to our family members and to our friends and to our co-workers and telling them about Jesus. That's what I want us to get out of it. If this is true, and I believe it is, and I believe these judgments are going to come on this earth, I believe that with all my heart. I believe these things are going to happen. There is nobody that I love that I want to go through this. I'm human, so I'm going to say there ain't many people that I don't know that I want to go. There are some people I'd like to go through a little bit of it. I'm just human. But what I'm saying is, there is not people that I love that I want to go through this stuff. And if this is true, and if this is going to happen, that should inspire us to want to get out even harder and tell people about Jesus. Can you think of someone in your family that's lost? Can anybody here think of somebody in your family that's lost that don't know Christ? If this is true, this is what they're going to go through. This is what they're going to be looking at. This is what they're going to be facing. Does that not urge us to want to show the severity of what we've got to do, the message we've got to give, that Jesus saves? That's what we've got to do. And I believe God has stopped and said, listen, I'm fixing to show you something. It's fixing to get bad. And we'll see that it's going to get even worse as it goes. The silent preparation. He's got silence. He says, and I saw the 7 angels which stood before God, and to them were given 7 trumpets. Trumpets are used all through the Bible. And I put a couple scripture verses on there just to call to memory some things about trumpets. If you know anything about trumpets in the Bible, it never was, we get these pictures in our mind, whether it was a chauffeur, or a chauffeur, how you say the word, everybody says the word, or ram's horn, whatever, or if it was a trumpet or whatever it was never just a blast. They had actual calls that if anybody's been in the military, you know what I'm talking about. You had the morning revelry and all that stuff, and the bugles, when they would blow the bugles with the cavalry. All of you watched the westerns. You got the call to retreat, you got the call to battle, you got the call to assemble, you got all these things. And the Bible was the same way. They used trumpets for a lot of different things. I put a couple of those down there. And it was interesting to kind of read some of those, some of the different trumpets and what they were meant. But basically what a trumpet was used for was for proclamation. It was to announce something. Either to retreat, go to war, assemble, whatever it was called, to call to worship, whatever it was. I shared with you the time that Victory Baptist Church, I don't know if you remember that or not, big church up on 85 as you go by in Bristol, Virginia. And the little quartet used to come from up there and sing, and they sung at our church, and they asked me to come to their church, and it was a really big church. Really quiet, really formal. And I was like, well, that's okay, we can do that. And I remember sitting there in that church, and I was sitting over here next to the pastor, and I talked to him a little bit, real nice guy, good man of God. And they were singing their music, and they were singing, "It Is Well With My Soul." And I love "It Is Well With My Soul." The choir was singing, and the lady that was doing the verses was a beautiful voice. I mean, it was just awesome. The choir had some great harmony, and I'm enjoying myself. I mean, I'm having a good time, and if you've ever been in one of them churches where you ain't supposed to say nothing, you've ever been in one of them churches where you ain't supposed to say nothing, it was one of them churches, you know. And I'll never forget, they got to that part, and "It Is Well With My Soul," where it said, "And Lord, haste the day when the face shall be sight, the clouds be rolled back as a scroll, the trump shall," and when they said the trump shall resound, old boy standing over here in the corner, and I didn't even see, and I don't think anybody else did. They may have been used to it. I didn't ever see it. He read back with that trumpet, and he hit a blare on that thing, and my hair went straight up on the back of my head. And I said, "Play that thing, boy!" And that's all I said. And then I kind of ducked down. That trumpet just got all over me, boy. I was like, wow! I'm waiting on that trumpet sound. And so trumpets can be moving, but they're used all through the Bible, and they're used to, the Greek dictionary says it's a reverberation. Is what it is. It's an announcement. It's a proclamation. It's used to get your attention, is what it's used for. And so he said, I've given these angels 7 trumpets, 7 proclamations, 7 judgments that's going to be brought on the world. Before he does it, we have the saints' prayers. And 3 to 5, I'm going to read it again just to read it. Another angel came and stood at the altar, having a golden censer. There was given unto him much incense, that he should offer it with the prayers of all saints upon the golden altar, which was before the throne. And the smoke of the incense, which came with the prayers of the saints, ascended up before God out. Knock that thing down yet. You see that? That was good. Ascended up before God out of the angel's hand. The angel took the censer and filled it with fire to the altar and cast it into the earth, and there were voices and thunderings and lightnings and an earthquake. And when I was reading what Dr. Jeremiah said and some other things about this, because this is one of those verses that really don't explain a whole lot. I've heard a lot of different views on this as well. Very interesting, though. I read a few places where they believe it was Jesus that was carrying it. I don't know where they get that, but that's okay. That's okay. But they were carrying the prayers of the saints. And they were laying them on, if you know anything about the tabernacle, they would have these censers, and they would fill it with these, they poured over the coals, it would give off a sweet aroma. And that's where we talk about let our prayers be a sweet aroma to, we want them to be sweet. Not bitter, not wormwood. We want our prayers to be sweet. But these prayers, and Dr. Jeremiah teaches that he believes that it's the martyred saints who are there. And I can see his point in a way. He's talking about how, if you remember, the differences in the 2 prayers. The saints of the church who are already there, we pray for our loved ones and for our saints. And these people that were martyred, we're praying for judgment. How long, O Lord, will these people be allowed to do this? Because as soon as he does this, then the judgments are poured out. So again, I challenge you, go read it, go study it. I'm not real sure that I agree with that because it says all saints. And so I'm going to take what the Word says. I believe he's taken all of our prayers and cast before God. What the reason is, I don't know. It don't really say. But it's something you can read and you can study and get into. Don't just read this. And I agree with Preacher Eric. Go back and look at some of these things. One thing I will say about references in the Bible. If you've got a Bible that's got the references in the median or media, whatever you call it, the inserts or whatever, it doesn't always mean that this is talking about this. A lot of times it is. References, a lot of times, is just, this is the same wording that was used over here. Or this was the same theme that was used over here. So sometimes you won't even find the same words, but it's talking about the same thing. Sometimes it's just the same words, but it's not talking about the same things. You got to study this out when you do it. But get into some of this stuff, go back to some of the Old Testament stuff and look at what they're talking about and how they compare and stuff. I think it's really neat to go back and see how the Jewish history and stuff is foretold and goes back and forth. It's real neat. But we need to get into the trumpets. The sinner's punishment. When I teach this, I have to keep reiterating it. Think of your loved ones. Whether you believe it can happen, whether you believe it's already happened, whether you believe it's going to be something else that's going to happen, think of your loved ones. That this is what they could be facing. This is what they could be going through. This is what you could be going through. If you don't know Christ as your Savior, this is what you could be going through. You say, well, I don't believe it that way. Well, you better hope you're right. That's like the atheists, they had their big rally yesterday or day before yesterday in D.C. or whatever. And I've debated one of them before and talked to them, and my thing was always the same thing. If you're right and I'm wrong, what have I lost? Nothing. I've had a good life, and I've lived a happy time, and had a wonderful time with my brothers and my friends and my church. And if it ends when I die, then it just ends when I die, but I lived a good life doing it. But if I'm right and you're wrong, what have you lost? And if I'm right about what I'm teaching right here, and you're wrong, this is something you're going to face. Are you ready to face this? And you say, well, it's one of those things that drives me crazy, and that's where I disagree with the Left Behind series. People have this in their mind, well, it's okay, the rapture does take place. I've already read it, people get saved during the tribulation. I'll just wait for the tribulation, that way I know it's real and I can get saved then. Man, there's people dying left and right in here, and not just the saints. As we see, just in the verses that we've read today, a third. People are dying everywhere. There's no guarantee that you will be able to be saved in the tribulation. The 7 angels which had the 7 trumpets prepared themselves to sound. The first trumpet sounded. A third of the trees and all green grass. The first angel sounded, and there followed hail and fire mingled with blood, and they were cast upon the earth. And the third part of trees was burned up, and all green grass was burned up. And I'll say this. If you'll remember when we talked about the King James Version of the Bible. I remember we've done quite a bit of a study on that and looking into that and talking. And, I think Brother Eddie and Preacher Eric both done an awesome job teaching on the King James Version of the Bible and why we use the King James Version of the Bible. One of the reasons that we use King James over the other versions is because they were translated from the majority text. Y'all remember we talked about this. We believe that the majority texts were the ones that we were to use. They were the most reliable. And the minority texts come out of a place called Alexandria, Egypt. And we know how that works out. And I'll say this. Have you ever heard of this guy? Origin. Ever heard the name Origin? He is the guy who developed that everything in the Bible is allegorical or symbolic. You know where he's from? Alexandria. So if you want to view everything as allegorical and symbolic, you're going to miss something. I listen. I'm not covenant theology, and I'm really not dispensationalism. I guess I'm in the middle somewhere. Because I've looked at both and tried to study both and tried to go through both. I believe the Bible is slap full of allegories. I believe it's slap full of symbols. I also believe it's slap full of some literalism. To say that everything is symbolic or allegorical is crazy. To say that everything is literal is crazy. The Bible teaches, and I'm going to show that here in just a second. I'm going to prove it all right here in just a second, in just a couple verses. Oh, let me go back. The Bible says, let me read this, because I like the way this was written. Yep, let me turn the page.
While you find out, what's the point that you're making of the origin? I missed that.
Well, I'm getting there. I'm getting there. He taught that everything was symbolic or allegorical.
Oh.
Everything was. That he's the one that developed that idea. And everything is symbolic. And again, I'll show that here in a second. And I don't always agree with this, but my conclusion is that we must interpret the effect of these judgments literally, unless there is a compelling reason to do otherwise. The sheer awfulness or unusual nature of its judgments is not a reason. While hell and fire mingled with blood is a terrifying sounding reality to consider coming upon the earth, we've already learned that the Great Tribulation is going to be exactly that, a terrifying reality. And if a lot of the people today were teaching back before Moses went to Pharaoh, all of that would have happened. I mean, look at the plagues that took place on Egypt. They were not symbolic, they happened. They were literal things that happened. And that's not just biblical, that was historical. You can read all the historical facts about that. It was a symbolic. And so, why would it go from literal to symbolic all of a sudden? And again, we'll look at that here in a second. I believe it is ridiculous to try to put everything literal. Just as much as I think it's ridiculous to try to put everything symbolic. You can't. There's too much in there. One of the ones I was reading, it was really funny. The guy was trying to take the spoon. Well, it wasn't really talking about a spoon in the temple. The round piece was considered grace, and the handle was how long grace extends and what it read. No, it was a spoon. It was a silver spoon. It was used in the temple. And what did it teach? It taught that God was precise. That God took care of, every little detail was important to Him. Everything don't have to mean something else. It can. A lot of it does. But I believe we can get so far either way that it gets out of reach. And we can't take everything that's literal, but some things are literal. I believe this is literal. I believe that there's going to be hell and fire that's going to be mingled, that's going to come down, it's going to burn up a third of the trees and all the burnt grass. You say, that's crazy. Well, so was the plagues. Well, that don't sound reasonable. God's not reasonable. God's righteous. God said, I'm going to bring judgment on the earth. Logical. I ain't read anything God does is logical. He tells dead folk to get up and walk. He tells deaf people to hear and lame people to get up. T.D. Jakes used to always say, God talk crazy talk. He talks about the impossible like it's possible. So to say, well, he couldn't have really meant that because he's got, no. God said it's going to happen. I believe it's going to happen. The second trumpet. A third of the sea creatures and ships. And I've done a little studying on this. We were at the beach this week. And I was sitting there a few times when we were out there at the ocean just looking and thinking about this. And man, how scary that would be. But it's more than just that. Here's shoots one of these symbolic ideas out of the water. And the second angel sounded, and as it were, a great mountain. Now, if I'm supposed to take all this symbolically, why is he trying to make this symbolic? This kind of just would be a double negative. It wouldn't make no sense. But he didn't say it was a mountain. He said, and as it were, in other words, it's not really a great mountain. This is like it was a great mountain. Burning with fire was cast into the sea. And the third part of the sea became blood. That happened in Egypt. If you remember, during one of the plagues. And as we look forward, actually we're going to see it again here in just a few minutes. When we talk about the whole world, when Caesar Augustus said the whole world was taxed, he wasn't talking about China and all this other stuff. But in this case, he's talking about the earth. And if you look that word up, it's perennial globe. Everything around it, all the societies is going through this. So it's not just one part of the earth that's going through this. It says a third of the seas became blood. And a third part of the creatures which were in the sea and had life died. Now, I don't know if you've ever been somewhere where pollution has gotten really bad and killed a lot of fish. It stinks. Blood itself stinks. So imagine a third of the oceans. The earth is covered by 3/4 of water. Imagine a third of the oceans turning to blood to smell. Think of a third of the creatures that's in the waters that die to smell. And this is even another one. And a third part of the ships that were on the water were destroyed. And I've done a little study on this. As of this year, there are 50,420 ships that are registered on the oceans. 50,000 ships that are registered on the oceans. Now, these ships carry food, they carry oils, they carry supplies, they carry clothes, they carry a multitude of things. Anything you can think of, we get on ships coming across, back and forth across the oceans. The Bible says a third of those ships will be destroyed. 16,638 ships, if it happened today, would be destroyed. All the cargoes, all the people, cruise ships. We don't know what kind of ships it'll be. It just says there's going to be a third of the ships on the water will be destroyed. A third of them. We just come through earthquakes, we just come through famines, we just come through pestilence, we come through a lot of this stuff, and now a third of the food and clothes and supplies. Imagine even if a third of the water is blood. These ships that were carrying oil, were carrying chemicals, were carrying things of that nature. Now they're leaking into the ocean. The pollution is going to be incredible. That breaks my heart because I love the ocean. I love to sit down at the ocean and just lay back on the beach and watch the waves coming. I got video of just the waves coming in back home. I like that. That's relaxing to me. But imagine sitting out on the beach and it's mingled with blood and dead animals coming in back and forth and the smell down there. People ain't going to be on the beaches anymore. It's not going to be a pleasant place to be, folks. The third trumpet. And the third angel sounded, and there fell a great star from heaven, burning as it were a lamp, and it fell upon the third part of the rivers and upon the fountains of water. And let me say this. Some people say they're meteors, some people say they're asteroids, these fiery things, maybe torpedo or missiles. What we don't know what they were. I believe that the mountain was probably an asteroid or meteorite, could be. We don't know. God's doing this. God's doing what He wants to do. And if He wants to pick up a mountain, if He wants to take the crowd of the mountain, pick it up, throw it over yonder, He can do it. He can do what He wants to. And these theologians say, well, it's got to be, no, it ain't got to be nothing. You don't put God in box. God does what He wants to do. This is His judgment, not our judgment. This is His judgment He's doing. He says, a great star from heaven, burning as it were a lamp, and it fell upon the third part of the rivers and upon the fountains of water. And the name of the star is called wormwood, and the third part of the waters became wormwood. And many men died of the waters because they were made bitter. If you go over and read, I think it's in Jeremiah, it talks a lot about the wormwood and the bitterness. And again, we don't know what this is. But he's teaching us that a third of the drinking water, a third of the water that we live on is going to be contaminated. It's going to be bitter, and it's going to be bitter to the point that people are going to die from trying to drink it. That's what it says. Science tells us that a person can live 40 days without food. I don't believe that. A couple days, I'm ready to kill somebody. But they say you can only live a few days without water. 3 days. All the chaos going on. Everything's going crazy, and now we don't have no food, we don't have no water, everything is in chaos, there's no law, there's nothing going on. I mean, it's just total rampant craziness. And I can't even get a drink of water. Finish up real quick. I'm going to blow that bell here in a second. Fourth trumpet. Something I learned on this, and I've read it many, many times. Never seen this before. I thought this was different. Let's read that. And the fourth angel sounded, and the third part of the sun was smitten, the third part of the moon, and the third part of the stars. So as the third part of them was darkened, and the day shone not for a third part of it, and the night likewise. Everything is going to get out of whack. Not just on earth, but in the heavens. The heavens are going to be all out of whack. The astronomers are going to go all to pieces. They ain't going to know what in the world's going on. Anybody ever heard of John Jasper before? Anybody heard of John Jasper? Here, get a chance to look up John Jasper. Awesome. Old slave preacher. Awesome. He was great. His written testimony is incredible. I'll share that with you sometime. He preached a sermon called "The Sun Do Move," because science talks about how everything rotates around the sun, and the sun just sits there. He said, "Oh no," he said, "God made the sun stand still for a day, or for a couple hours." He said, "If it stands still, it's got to be moving." So, but everything is going to get out of whack. But look, we've known that, and we've heard how the stars are going to be darkened, the sun's going to be darkened, the moon's going to be darkened. But I always miss this one part. "And the day shall not for a third of it, and the night likewise." The days are going to be messed up. They're not even going to be 24-hour days anymore. The timing and the orbits and the rotations, everything is going to be out of whack. No more 24-hour days. I think it'll be back down. We tried to do the math, about 16 hours. If you take a third of the day, a third of the night. Your loved ones could be going through this. Your loved ones could be facing this. Your loved ones could be left here while you're in heaven with Christ, facing the judgment of God. "And I beheld and heard an angel flying through the midst of heaven, saying with a loud voice, Woe, woe, woe." That word means alas. Alas. Listen. Pay attention to the inhabitants of where? To the inhabitants of the earth. Not a particular area. Not a particular section. And look it up in the Greek. It says the entire terrestrial globe. Every place on this earth and outside of this earth is going to suffer. Everywhere. It says it right there. We're back here. The inhabitants of the earth, by reason of the other voices of the trumpet of the three. He says, listen, you thought this was bad, and it was. He said, I got 3 more trumpets coming. And I'm telling everybody across this earth, you better hold on. I'm trying to show you something. Which are yet to sound. If this didn't get your attention, the next part will. We read that in earlier scriptures, and I believe it's been misquoted so many times where they talk about the rocks falling on them. It wasn't that they were trying to kill themselves. They were trying to hide from the judgment of God. They were trying to hide from what God was doing. That was earlier. Imagine what it's like now. People are dying left and right. Your sons, your daughters, your grandkids, and your parents, your brothers, your sisters, your neighbors, and your nephews and nieces, aunts, uncles, all these people that's in your family that may be lost may be suffering this. And maybe, just maybe, the only chance they've got is for you to come and witness. But we find every reason not to. We find every excuse not to talk about Christ. And listen, I've had those people. I've had those people that, man, they want to cram it down your throat. And you want to repel. People repel that. That's the reason why people don't like us coming door to door no more. The Jehovah's Witnesses and the Mormons have got everybody like this now at the house. But you can do it in love. You can do it in love. And you can go to these people and you can tell them, I'm not judging you. I'm telling you I love you. Because they may go through this. That should give us an urgency to want to preach. Next week, the whoa, whoa, whoas start. Revelation 9, 1 through 12, where we look at the last 3 trumpet judgments. Hell on earth. You thought it was bad what we read. Just wait. Just wait. It's fixing to get bad. We need an urgency to preach the gospel. You say, well, I'm a woman. I ain't a preacher. Every born-again Christian is a preacher. A preacher is a heralder of the good news. That's what it is. Your job is to go out here and tell somebody about Jesus. If you're a born-again Christian, your job is to preach the gospel. Tell somebody about Jesus. Not just invite them to church. That's good too. You need to go out here and win them to Christ. You need to be out here preaching the gospel. Let's get them saved, bring them in, and then teach them when we get them. I'd like to see all of us come here next week with a couple under our arms. Well, they just accepted Christ as their Savior. Wouldn't that be awesome? Wouldn't that be great? But we'd rather invite them, let's preach them to the Lord. Let's get an urgency to preach the gospel, folks. Because whether you believe it or not, this could very well happen. I believe it will. I believe this is getting ready to happen. Any day now, this is going to start. Is your family ready for this? Are you ready for this? If the Lord was to come at any time, and I believe He can, I believe the Lord, there is nothing left scriptural-wise to hold Him back from coming. I believe He could come at any instant. And here's the bad part. If I had an inside view on it, and I knew He was going to be here in 5 minutes, there would be room at the altar. How do you know He's not coming in 5 minutes? Are you ready? Can you go to heaven with a clear conscience, knowing that I've witnessed to everybody that I need to witness to? And I share the gospel with everybody that I need to share the gospel with. Can you lay your head down at night, knowing if they go to hell, so they're on the accord because I've done all I can do? Preach the gospel, folks. Tell folks about Jesus. And you dismiss it.